Good evening and welcome to The Big Fight. I'm Vishnu Shom. We've got an exciting episode of The Big Fight for you this evening. Now, with the Law Commission of India issuing a public notice asking for a cross-section of opinions, the Uniform Civil Code, one of the most contentious themes in India's history, has come back into sharp focus. Now, any debate on the Uniform Civil Code needs to factor in the core theme of justice and equality in the eyes of our Constitution, while acknowledging the heart of the divergence. What are that? What is that? Different religions, castes, practices, laws and beliefs. And then the political undercurrent. That's been one of the sharpest divides on this issue and may re-emerge as a principal theme ahead of the next elections. On The Big Fight tonight, is it time for India to have a uniform civil code? But first, a quick explainer of what exactly it is that we are talking about. What is a civil code? A uniform civil code refers to a common set of laws governing but not limited to marriage, to divorce, to adoption, to inheritance and to succession. So let's just repeat that. Marriage, divorce, adoption, inheritance and succession. That's primarily what a uniform civil code deals with. But what is the fundamental difference between laws? Take a look at how different faiths in our country have developed their personal laws. Now, Hindu personal laws are based on ancient texts, the Vedas, Smritis, Upanishads, and modern concepts of justice and equality as well. Muslim personal laws are based on the Quran, the Sunnah, the Ijma, and the Qiyas. Christian personal law is based on the Bible, on traditions and on reason. So that's just three examples. So what are some of the considerable differences which exist, which is what a uniform civil code will try and rectify if in fact it goes through? So a few issues which need to be looked at. For example, Muslim law in India recognizes the marriage of a minor who's attained puberty as being valid despite the existence of the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. So there's a conflict in the law there. Christian women are not recognized as natural guardians of their own children. That's a problem there under Christian law. Sikh marriage laws lack provisions for divorce, so Sikh divorces are governed by the Hindu Marriage Act. Adoption laws, let's talk about that. Parsis do not recognize adoptive daughters. Their rights under Zoroastrian practices not recognized. Is that the India we seek? The Hindu Succession Act discriminates between heirs of deceased men and deceased women. There also needs to be a recognition of inheritance rights of children born out of wedlock, because rights apply to everyone equally, or they should. But here's more of the divergence. Certain tribes in Meghalaya are matriarchal. They follow a female line of descent, while among certain Naga tribes, for example, women are not allowed to inherit property. Which brings us finally to the larger political issue. For the BJP, a uniform civil code has always been a top priority, one among three. Now, what were those three? The abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir, that's done. The construction of a Ram Mandir, that's essentially done as well. Will there be a uniform civil code in India? That is the question that we are looking at. Now, we've got a fantastic panel with us. Ratan Sharda, author, is with us as well. He's with the RSS. He's written extensively about them. Satyapal Jain, Additional Solicitor General of India, also a member of the BJP. Anila Singh, a spokesperson of the BJP. So that's essentially one side of the debate. Shiba Aslam Fehmi, author, journalist, a research scholar and an Islamic feminist, joins us. Ghanshyam Tiwari is spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Gurcharan Singh Grewal, General Secretary of the SGPC, the Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee. And we've also got the wonderful Supreme Court advocate Sanjay Hegde. So we've tried to balance this out with as diverse a cross-section of views as possible. What we do, ladies and gentlemen, in this first part of the program is called the first punch, where each of our participants has 1 minute for their introductory remarks, and then I get rude and I tell them, okay, no more, right? And I will follow that timer. So, Ratan Sharda, to you first, and the question is this: is it time for India to have a uniform civil code? Your time starts now.
Well, Vishnu, actually the time started in 1950 itself. But as Nehru admitted that he was not ready for uniform civil code because he was not sure of Muslim reaction. Secondly, sooner or later the nation has to rise to some issues which they try to avoid. So triple talaq was avoided for a long time. 370 was avoided for a long time. Ultimately they were done because Nehru ji also said that ye 370 घिसते घिसते घिस जाएगा. But somehow that घिसना was left to BJP, not Congress. That was done. Now coming to this particular stance of controversy about this particular bill, but we have to understand it's a secular society. We have a secular constitution. As per the modern secular definition that our secular friends follow, the state should not have religion. If state does not have a religion, the government doesn't have a religion, then how can we have different religions for different communities when we don't even recognize those communities as separate entities in case of a secular society? And thirdly, when you talk of CAA, people said we should be uniform for all.
We'll discuss the points that you're mentioning later on. Shiba Aslam Femi, is it time for India to have a uniform civil code? Your time, ma'am, starts now.
Thank you, Vishnuji. For any type of reforms within the traditional communities, all the times are ripe and right. And we will not get any particular time or phase or epoch in the life of the community then when we would say that some of the groups are ready to give up their privileges and others are ready to receive them in good humor. So there is a fight going on and we totally understand this. However, at this juncture, whenever the question of uniform civil codes are raised, it is always raised something to be punched with the Muslim community, to deal with the minorities, etc. It is not about the minority, it is about the individual rights guaranteed in the constitution and also the diversity of the communities involved. If you talk about any community, whether it is Hindu or Muslim, it is such a heterogeneous community. So the kind of groundwork, the procedure is problematic. We have to get into the transparent, inclusive procedure of developing some kind of format, and then we go ahead.
All right, the process needs to be inclusive, ma'am. Your time is up over there. Mr. Satyapal Jain, Additional Solicitor General of India, is it time for India to have a uniform civil code? Your 1 minute, sir, starts now. Sir, could you just unmute yourself? I'll restart the counter. Just unmute yourself and I'll restart that.
The Indian Constitution was drafted by the Constituent Assembly and it provided Article 44 which says the state shall, I'll read that line, endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. So it is the constitutional mandate to any government that it will strive for securing the uniform civil code for India. This issue was again debated in 1995 in Sarla Mudgil's case, where the two honorable judges of the Supreme Court in two separate judgments expressed the desire that the government should go for a uniform civil code. One honorable judge said, we appeal to the Prime Minister. Another said, let it be the Law Commission. Similar observations were given in 2015 in ABC versus State, that still we are not having uniform civil code in this country. I think it is the right time to comply with the directions of the Supreme Court as well as the constitutional requirement of having a uniform civil code. Earlier,
right.
it will be in the interest
You
of the
believe
nation.
this is the right time? Okay. Ghansham Tiwari, do you believe it's the right time? Should India have a uniform civil code? Sir, your time starts now. 1 minute. Go ahead.
Good evening, Vishnu, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. Three things I believe are important. One, the idea as well as the intent that goes alongside uniform civil code. Is the time right? Is the parliament in function? We have a prime minister who, in spite of thumping majority, has locked down the parliament because he cannot speak about his friend on which opposition parties wanted him to speak about. Second, we have a BJP who on one end says that we are one nation. On the other hand, Manipur is burning. They are not able to support their own ministers whose houses are getting burnt. The Prime Minister is missing. There are not notices against that. So neither the way that this government is functioning nor the way the Prime Minister is functioning, the time is right. Whether the intent is right, well, at a time when BJP has done Bharat Todo for 10 years, I don't think intent is right.
All right, you don't think they can do that? Anila Singh, spokesperson of the BJP, ma'am, go ahead. 1 minute.
My Ram Ram to everyone, and this was a promise made by Bharatiya Janata Party in manifesto as well, and we are very much determined to make it happen in our country, because when we have one nation, one constitution, then why different laws? It should be finished. I think so. It will bring a harmony, and everybody, each and every citizen will be on the same platform. When criminal laws are same, why there is a difference in civil law? So this was done because of the appeasement politics. Now that appeasement politics has to be stopped, and the real work has to start. And the real work is to consolidate the harmony, peace, and the nationalism of our citizens in our great country. So divide and rule policy, which Congress party had always maintained, that has to be crushed and crashed. So I think UCC is the demand of the day, and different exercises has been done in the past, and in today's state also.
All right, you believe it needs to happen today. Okay. Gurcharan Singh Grewal, General Secretary of the Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. Do you believe, sir, that this is the right time for India to have a uniform civil code? Your 1 minute starts now.
आपका धन्यवाद है कि एनडीटीवी इस बात पे डिबेट कर रहा है, लेकिन मेरे को इतराज भी है, आप गुस्सा मत करेंगे, कि यहाँ पैनलिस्ट 6 हैं, 6 में 3 पैनलिस्ट प्रो यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड है। ये बात कहाँ जाएगी मेरे को मालूम नहीं है, लेकिन मैं ये सभी को, क्योंकि आप दुनिया सारी देख रही है आपके चैनल को, कि जब देश को आजाद करवाया था तब लोगों ने ये नहीं यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड के लिए आजादी नहीं दिलवाई थी। वक धर्मों के लोग थे, वक कल्चर के लोग थे, वक बोली के लोग थे, अलग अलग संस्कार थे। वो लोगों को आज एक जगह करने की जरूरत बिल्कुल नहीं है, क्योंकि जो हिंदुस्तान है इसकी जो बहुभाषा है, बहुधर्मी है और बहुत संस्कारी है, यही इसकी ग्लोरी है, जो हमको ये देखना चाहिए। ये बात तो जो नारा लगाते हैं हिंदू राष्ट्र का, तो उसके लिए बढ़ता हुआ एक ऐसा कदम है, मैं समझता हूं, मैं निजी तौर पर यह समझता हूं कि ये देश को तोड़ने वाली बात है, देश को जोड़ेगी नहीं। ये आने वाले समय में इस बात का खमियाजा भारत को भुगतना पड़ेगा।
ऑल राइट, गुरचरण जी परफेक्ट ऑन टाइम। और गुरचरण जी, मैं ये भी कह सकता हूं कि ये पैनल जो है एकदम बैलेंस्ड है। वी ट्राइड वेरी हार्ड, सो इन फैक्ट इफ एनीथिंग यू हैव गॉट वन पर्सन हु मे एक्चुअली बी मोर इन फेवर ऑफ द स्टेटस क्वो रिमेनिंग। संजय हेगड़े जी, योर 1 minute starts now. Should India have a uniform civil code?
In a pluralistic country, I do not know what this obsession with uniformity is. Long ago, William Blake said, one law for the lion and the ox is tyranny. Right now, what the Uniform Civil Code seems to be is a shorthand for saying whatever is applicable in the Hindu Code Bill will apply across the board elsewhere. The Law Commission very recently, barely 2 or 3 years ago, said that there is no need in a pluralistic country to put in a uniform civil code. It's neither desirable nor feasible. Now, what has happened in the past 3 years that it has suddenly become feasible. Now, let me also tell you that even within the Hindu Code Bill, there are so many practices which are contrary to each other. There is first cousin marriage, which is possible in the South. There is marriages between uncle and niece. All kinds of things happen. And there is no one uniform law, even among the majority community now.
There is no one uniform law which exists, and that diversity, Sanjay Hegde believes, needs to be preserved, protected. But let me, having done that first punch, go straight across to Satyapal Jain. My first question, and other panelists raise your hand or come in as you choose. But Mr. Jain, you mentioned in your introductory remarks that Article 44 of the Constitution says the state shall endeavour to secure a uniform civil code for citizens throughout the territory of India. It is, however, a directive principle of state policy, which means that it's not necessarily enforceable. It's a larger goal. We've got other directive principles which we don't want to enforce at all. So why necessarily shall we enforce this?
See, the issue was debated in early 70s also, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was going through the bank reforms, the nationalization, etc., etc. and it was said by all those prominent leaders at that time, which I repeat the argument now, that directive principles are the basic principles which should be the directive force for the government to enact the law. And this issue, after the directive principles, have been considered by the Supreme Court in 3 judgments. First was a 5 judges constitutional bench in 1985, then it in 1995, then 2015 Supreme Court. I'll send you those citations. I have got that judgment. And in 5 judges bench of the Supreme Court in 1985 said a common civil code will help the cause of national integration by removing desperate loyalties to laws which have conflicting ideologies.
Sure.
So when the Constitution of India has provided it, the Supreme Court in 3 judgments, one after the other, has examined it. And now simply to say that because it is a directive principles, it can't be implemented. 1975 during emergency, when secularism was added, it was basically said that since Indian Constitution directive principles provide for that, we will be going for it.
All right.
Therefore, I think it should be implemented. It is right.
All right,
time.
multiple references
Take a
to the
right
Supreme
decision.
Court. I get that point. Sanjay Hegde, that is a fact. There have been multiple references in the Supreme Court in separate cases saying that India needs to work towards a uniform civil code. How would you respond to that point?
Nobody is denying that. Nobody is denying that we need to work towards a directive principle like the Uniform Civil Code. Just like nobody denies that we should have a socialistic pattern of society. See, and please see, where your big fat cats accumulate all of the public money and everything, we've given up on socialism. The question is, what is a Uniform Civil Code? What is the draft? Has anybody come out with a draft? No. How would a Uniform Civil Code possibly affect questions like gay marriage? Are gays not part of Indian society? Should there not be a uniform provision for them as well when you are drafting a Uniform Civil Code? And that's a question on which both sides, the Hindu side as well as the Muslim side, will probably run on. When you have a Uniform Civil Code, can we also have uniform taxation? The exemption that is allowable to a Hindu undivided family, can it also be allowable to a Christian undivided family, for instance? So let us first have a draft. We've been promised drafts by the Uttarakhand government, by the Gujarat government, nobody. There was a progressive draft which was submitted to the Law Commission, headed by Justice B.S. Chauhan.
Okay.
And Justice B.S.
All
Chauhan,
right. So you want to see a draft.
necessary.
I get that point. Satyapal Jain, just a brief point. You have quoted chapter and verse of different Supreme Court laws or orders.
Yes.
I should point out that the 2018 Law Commission said that a uniform civil code is neither necessary nor desirable at this stage.
Yes. This is what I want to respond to Mr. Sanjay Hegde also. There is no draft as yet. At the time, only we are discussing the issue because the Law Commission of India has invited the suggestion from different stakeholders. Whatever point you have, you give to the Law Commission. Law Commission will examine and submit its recommendation. It will go to the government, then it will go to the standing committee, it will go to the Parliament of India. I totally agree with him. There are many points which need consideration, which need solution. But this is the only way you start the dialogue. And I think everybody should respond to the Law Commission, give its point of view. If earlier Law Commission said it is not desirable, maybe this Law Commission may agree, may not agree with that. We have started a debate. Let's participate in that debate. Let's give all the points in favor or against that. And then to move towards securing the
No, but
provision.
Mr. Hegde, isn't that a fair argument? That if the Law Commission has said, look, we need to restart this debate, we welcome public opinion, say whatever you have to say, is that not a process that's important as we go towards some judgment one way or
And the
the
Law
other on
Commission
this?
also told you why it is that when there are so many proposals for change of laws which need its attention, why has it provoked debate by going back on something which its very recent predecessor said, no, there is no need. Now, has the Law Commission said, why is it that just before the 2024 election, we need to provoke a debate or we need to polarize votes?
Okay, let me take that to Anila Singh. Anila Singh, the point that I think Sanjay Hegde is referring to is that when the BJP came to power, there were three main goals. One, abrogation of 370, one, Ram Mandir. Both of them have been achieved. And this is the third goal. Is this being pursued more for political reasons based on what the RSS feels and less for, a legal argument that perhaps we need to be considering this now?
It is pursued because we are nationalist party and we want good for our country. We do not want anything which divides our countrymen. That is the sole purpose. And what was the two nation theory when our country got divided? Our country got divided because these two religious communities, it became so difficult for one particular religious community to exist with us. So they wanted a separate nation and they got the separate nation, which has Islamic in its name.
Ma'am, respectfully, a uniform civil code is not about Hindus and Muslims. It's about Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs,
this is what
Christians, Buddhists.
Allow me to complete. I'm not talking about Hindu and Muslim.
But no, ma'am, if you're talking about Pakistan
in 1947, allow me. Let me complete. So this is what I am saying. And we got a nation, we got a constitution, and in that constitution, there were several, and the maker of the constitution, Mr. Ambedkar, he himself wanted UCC in our nation. What about that? The people of India gave themselves a republic which is sovereign, socialist and secular and democratic in nature. And there is absolutely no doubt about it that our country is multi-ethnic, multicultural, multilingual, multiracial. Okay. But we want uniformity in it.
All right, we want uniformity in it. Okay, let me just interrupt you there to bring in Ghanshyam Tiwari, who's been waiting. Go ahead, Ghanshyamji.
Let's look at the uniformity BJP wants to achieve. In case of Brij Bhushan Singh, the POSCO case has been diluted. That is the uniformity. In case of Madhya Pradesh, there's an article in the Indian Express today about bulldozer at the school where children wanted to study, and a case has been made up not on the basis of bringing harmony and education, but on the basis of dividing the nation. That is the uniformity BJP wants. What is the uniformity they have achieved in Manipur? What is the uniformity they have achieved in Jammu and Kashmir? They have only broken what was an erstwhile state with a democracy that India could showcase to the world. What is the uniformity they have achieved in Kolhapur? So if the mission of the government is to divide the nation, and they are continuously at it, and Mr. Jain was talking about, the BJP member was talking about, let people come, debate, give the views to Law Commission, and it will go to the Parliament. Parliament will debate. Mr. Jain, I want to ask you, which was the government that locked down its own Parliament because the Prime Minister would not refuse to answer basic questions asked by the opposition? How will the Parliament debate? How many debates do you know that have happened? Did the Parliament debate on farm bills properly? The answer is no. Did the Parliament debate on what is happening with Hindenburg report? The answer is no. You tell me one good debate that the Parliament has debated. The Parliament under your government does not debate unemployment, does not debate price rise, does not debate lynching.
All right, so you have no confidence, sir, in the process of debate in Parliament. Satyapalji, since that was asked to you, Ratanji, I know you're waiting. Just give me half a second. Satyapalji, since it was directed to you, would you like to respond before I go to Ratan Sharda next?
Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, please understand, it is the Indian Constitution which has given supremacy to Parliament. It is the responsibility, power, jurisdiction of the Parliament to enact laws, and laws are passed and enacted by majority. I am surprised you have forgotten very easily. In 1975, when the entire constitution was amended, all members of the opposition MPs were behind the bars, including your leader. Nobody objected to them, and nowadays you are siding with those people. 23 years of age, I was not an MP, but I was in jail. So therefore, Parliament is supreme, they enact the laws. Those amendments were upheld by even the Supreme Court. Representation of People Act, when Mrs. Gandhi's disqualification was removed. The supremacy is of the Indian people. Indian people reflect their point of view through Parliament, and Parliament laws are scrutinized by the courts. If the court feel that no, this law is not proper, you remember India appointment of the Judicial Appointment Commission Act passed unanimously by the entire Parliament. Still Supreme Court said no, it is against the basic structure, it was struck down. So we have the balance of power. All three sections work under their own field. You have to faith in Parliament. The age and majority of
Ghanshyamji, very quickly before I go to my other panelists. Yes.
Let's live in the times today. I asked you in the last 4 years, do you know anything that the Parliament debated seriously that went to the people? The answer is no. You have a government that locked down the parliament. I was not speaking when this government passes ordinances. Does the parliament debate? When it goes against the Supreme Court order in Delhi case,
okay, so basically, Ghanshyamji, your argument is that this, if it goes to parliament, will never be debated. So the process, you believe, I take your point. You believe that the process itself is flawed because ultimately there would not be debate. Fair enough. Ratan Shardaji, the main argument against a uniform civil code is that it violates the constitution, that our constitutional freedom to practice the religion of choice, which allows different religious communities to follow their respective personal laws. For example, Article 25 gives every religious group the right to manage their own affairs. There's Article 29, it gives them the right to conserve their own distinct culture, right? So why get rid of the diversity? Ratanji.
Well, basically, you are doubting the different divergent views in the Constitution itself. You have highlighted the points which are basically divergent in the Constitution itself. You can't blame BJP for that. If there are articles which go against each other, then we need to raise questions. Why is it so? Why it needed 100 amendments or more than 100 amendments to keep on, correcting something which seems to be wrong in the Constitution? So, Constitution is a living organism. It has to evolve time to time. My objection is to cheapen the debate by going down to the everyday politics, thinking of something which is actually talked in terms of decades or in terms of a nation's life. They talked of Hindu Rashtra, the SGP panelists. Where in Constitution, where in the UCC is anything which has to do with Hindu Rashtra? Please tell me. Because Hindu Code Bill itself is not about Hindu Rashtra, nor is any other law. Mr. Hegde, such a senior advocate, says that it will be a copy of Hindu Code Bill. On what basis? The law panel had openly asked for suggestions. If there are good ideas in other religions, why not? But do you want to, deprive the Muslim couples who want to adopt that right from them? Do you want to deprive Christian women of the rights they have? Do you want to deprive Muslim women who don't have a right to hereditary the way other communities have or do not have? So these are issues which can definitely be, which are much away from the so-called Hindu Code Bill, or even Hindu Code Bill was basically a product of a secular government of Nehru, so you can't blame Hindus for that. And HEF is good for everybody. Please do give HEF to all. That will strengthen the family system. I am very much for it. And talking of discrimination in the Constitution, Article 25 to 30, which basically gives rights to minorities, don't give any rights to Hindus, majority. So should a Constitution which is supposedly secular have separate laws which discriminate against a majority community?
Sanjay Hegde, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, so let's take them one by one. Firstly, the Hindu Code Bill. Among the greatest opponents of the Hindu Code Bill at that particular point of time were the Jan-Sangh and the Hindu Mahasabha of those days, and also elements within the Congress led by President Rajendra Prasad, who objected to the Hindu Code Bill. Dr. Ambedkar, in fact, actually resigned from Nehru's cabinet because the Hindu Code Bill could not be passed. Just 1 minute. That's why. So now let me just continue this. I may be saying something in your favor. I may be saying something against you. You answer in your turn. So the point is that the Hindu Code Bill, when it came in, there were even people who spread the rumor that Nehru wanted the Hindu Code Bill to be passed because Indira Gandhi could then have a divorce. Otherwise, a Hindu woman did not have the right of divorce earlier. So all these oppositions have happened, and right now the way the UCC debate is being framed seems to be, look, the majority has gone through a Hindu codification. Now the same codification, let's apply it all across the board. That is where the problem really lies. Now, no. I would think that you would go much further if you said, instead of let's forget all this UCC or our agenda, this agenda, that agenda. It actually frightens people. If you say, let us have minimum standards, which are applicable to all Indians, that all Indians have the right to marry a partner of their choice, irrespective of which community. So all your love jihad and all these things, let's sort it out. All Indians, whether of whatever sexual orientation, have the right to marry. Let's have that. That they have the right to have children and bring them up according to their choice. that those children will then inherit straightforward.
Okay.
Without everybody and their
All right.
WhatsApp
So you
uncles coming in.
want this to be practiced in the true spirit
I would
of
want
justice.
a progressive
Just 3
code.
points.
I would want a progressive minimal standards code.
All right. Progressive minimal standards. Satyapal
3
Jain ji,
small points.
go ahead.
3 small points.
I'm very happy. I'm
Should
very happy
RT not
that
be
you have
applicable
come
to
out with 4 or 5 issues. This is what the Law Commission says. These are very relevant issues. I am totally agreeing with you. These need consideration. So let's go and examine those issues which you have raised now, 4 or 5 questions, issues that you have framed, you call in the law. Let the Law Commission
Let's
examine
do it
it.
after
And
2024.
Let's
do it after 2024.
Satyapal ji, do it after 2024.
Examine it. Let's examine it.
That's what he's saying. He's saying do it after 2024. We waited
Why
for
after 24?
70
Why?
so many years. Do it
People
after.
were saying Ram Mandir, when the judgment, the Supreme Court was hearing the case, argument was no, decide it after the elections. Why delay? What for? When the cases are not decided by the court,
it was heard after the election.
When the Law Commission
It was heard after the election, and therefore there was a greater
and it will
legitimacy.
be why after 224,
Listen.
why not after 230, why not after 250, and why not now? By now it has not been done.
Okay.
These are the issues which have to be debated.
All right. Gurcharan Singh Grewal ji, ये एक इलेक्शन मुद्दा है, इसलिए हम इस पे चर्चा अब कर रहे हैं. आपके ख्याल से ये 10 साल बाद या 15 साल बाद डिबेट करना चाहिए?
नहीं सर, ऐसी डिबेट होनी नहीं चाहिए जिसमें भारत को बांटा जाए. मैं बताता हूं कि जब देश को आजादी दिलवाई थी तो सभी लोगों ने भारत को इसलिए आजादी दिलवाई थी कि वो आजाद हो जाएंगे. वो अपना उनका धर्म सिक्योर होगा, अपने संस्कार सिक्योर होंगे. मेरे भाई जैन साहब मेरे पंजाब से आते हैं, चाहे चंडीगढ़ राजधानी है, चाहे नहीं मिली है पंजाब को, और मेरी बहन अनिला जी बोल रहे हैं, रतन जी बोल रहे हैं. मैं आपको बता दूं कि मेरे को हिंदू के प्रति नफरत नहीं है. आपने बताया कि आरएसएस या बीजेपी का एजेंडा था कि राम मंदिर बना, उनके धर्म का मामला, मैं उसका समर्थन करता हूं. लेकिन ये डिबेट की जरूरत क्या है? मेरे को बताइए, यूनियन सिविल कोड की क्या जरूरत है? एक संविधान है ना हमारा, और दूसरा आईपीसी एक्ट जो सभी के लिए एक है, और पासपोर्ट सभी को एक दिया जाता है, सभी को वोट का अधिकार है. इसमें इससे आगे जब किसी के धर्म में आप दखल दोगे तब फिर वो कैसे देश एक रह जाएगा? अभी बात कर रहे थे मेरे पैनलिस्ट भाई कि एक हिंदू है और एक सिख है और मुसलमान है, क्रिश्चियन है, अपने अपने धर्म के संस्कार है. अभी थोड़ी देर पहले हमारे को आनंद मैरिज एक्ट में हमारी मैरिज रजिस्टर करने का अधिकार मिला है. ये 2 साल हुए नहीं है, अब इसको डेमोलिश करोगे, कैसे करेंगे? अब हिंदू जो धर्म है वो अलग है, सिख धर्म अलग है, क्रिश्चियन अलग है, और जैनी बौद्धी सब अलग है. आप इनको मिलगोबा कैसे कर सकते हैं? तो ये बात की जो डिबेट है, ये डिबेट ही बेमानी है, क्योंकि ये डिबेट नफरत पैदा करती है. जो बात माइनॉरिटी के लिए भय पैदा करे, उससे देश को खतरा है.
Okay, Gurcharan ji, all right, minorities need to be protected is your point. I take that point. Shiba, you've been waiting very, very patiently, and I'm sorry I couldn't come to you earlier on. If you look at what took place in the case of triple talaq for members of the Muslim community, the courts ruled against it. They said that it was poor, it was discriminatory, and the rights of women needed to be protected. There are many other laws, not just in the Islamic faith. There are other laws which pertain to all faiths which are discriminatory. They do not protect. They are unfair, and they should not have space in 2023. Look at the laws look at so many laws. Now, why then would members of, let us say, the Islamic community insist that no, our faith and our laws must be protected?
See, as far as the triple talaq case is concerned, after this abolition of triple talaq, lot of issues have already been settled, particularly the halala and many issues that are attached to that. Now, when we talk about the Uniform Civil Code as the umbrella category, the problem is that nobody knows what it is going to look like, what are its features. So the problem is the Muslim community is not at this juncture, it is not afraid. After the triple talaq abolition, the Muslim community is open to it, but we should be able to discuss it. It should not be implemented in the GST manner, Ratorad. So that is the problem. So as I earlier said, and another panelist also said, that the procedure is very important. And secondly, the question of Article 44. there is one objective, and that comes before this, that Hindi should be made national language. Why nobody is talking about that? Is all the objectives of Article 44 BPSP are that sacrosanct? Are they more important than the fundamental rights? No, they are not. We all understand.
But ma'am, I tend to disagree with you somewhat. I think each case is... No, ma'am, I tend to disagree with you. Each case is important, but to say that why are we not debating that, and why are we debating this?
I'm trying to conclude my argument. It is being raised.
Are you suggesting this is not important?
It is because the debate is so Muslim-centric right now, and they just
but let's
want
talk
to
about Muslim law. Muslim law in India recognizes the marriage of a minor who has attained puberty as being valid. This is in contradiction of the Prohibition of the Child Marriage Act, also of the POSCO Act. Should there not be uniformity to ensure that there is one law?
Definitely, and it depends upon the individual courts also. In 2-3 cases where this...
so ma'am, are you in favor of a uniform civil code if there is a debate?
That is what I have been saying, that let us debate it out.
Yes.
Right. So that's an important point over there. Ratanji, would you like to come in over there with the point you were mentioning?
Vishnu, can I come in, please?
See, my point is that
I'll come to you next time.
Every community has some issues which need to be resolved, can be resolved through the Uniform Civil Code. As she has pointed out, there are issues regarding women's rights, there are issues regarding inheritance, there are issues regarding adoption and divorce, etc. So why these can't be discussed? As far as SGP is concerned, I'm sorry to say Anand Karaj has been around for a long time, not 2 years back. If he goes to that path, SGPC has managed to pass a law where the non-caste dharis cannot be voters for the SGPC, which is very discriminatory against the people who actually believe in Sikhi but do not have caste and dharis, because that was not the basic premise of Sikhism. But let that be, because he has come with certain ideas, let him follow that. But if I say that Uniform Civil Code is because Hindus have some problem with UCC, I'm sorry, that generation is gone who had certain issues. That is not today's issue. Today's issue, if I were to say, should Hindus not have right to worship and right to have their temples the way other communities have? Should 25-30, which is discriminated majority, should not be thought about? Should gender justice not be taken into account, like you talk of same-sex marriage, etc., as Hegde has pointed out? And so many issues which are today changing as per the changing society. To keep on sticking to something that was done 70 years back and was not done at that time because people are afraid of certain communities, it's high time we come back to the negotiation table, discuss, come with every alternative idea that is possible, and adapt some, don't adapt some.
Okay.
Nobody's saying take it or leave it.
All
Very
right.
simple.
Anilaji, I wanted to come to you next because this is now a huge political issue, particularly, for example, in the state of Uttarakhand lately. Can individual states impose a uniform civil code? Now, some experts say that there are issues such as inheritance, issues such as property rights, marriage, etc., etc. These come under the concurrent list of the Constitution. But there's Article 44, which says that a uniform civil code will be applied to citizens throughout the territory of India, which seems to imply that individual states do not have that power. In your mind, is this different states, for example, Uttarakhand, pushing their own state agenda, when in fact, if this is to happen, it has to happen at a nationwide level?
Before I answer this question, I would like to address Mr. Grewal. ग्रेवाल साहब, आप अभी कह रहे थे कि अगर हम यूसीसी लेकर आते हैं तो ये देश को डिवाइड करने के लिए होगा. तो मैं आपकी जानकारी के लिए बता देती हूँ कि 1954-55 में जब हिंदू कोड बिल आया था, बहुत भारी विरोध हुआ था. उसके बावजूद नेहरू जी हिंदू कोड बिल लेकर आए थे. उसमें हिंदू, जिसमें कि हिंदू, सिख, जैन, बौद्ध, ये सब हिंदू कोड बिल में आते थे. ठीक है. और आईपीसी की अभी आपने बात की, बिल्कुल आईपीसी जो हमारे क्रिमिनल लॉज है वो सबके लिए लागू हैं. जो हमारे सिविल लॉ हैं वो सबके लिए लागू नहीं हो रहे हैं. तो इसकी वजह से हमने देखा था शाहबानो का केस तो बहुत ही मशहूर रहा है. वो केवल और केवल जो बेचारी अपना मेंटेनेंस थी तो चाहती थी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उसको उसके लिए उसके हक में फैसला सुनाया, पार्लियामेंट में पलट दिया गया. तो इसी प्रकार से जैसे अभी विष्णु जी ने भी बताया कि भाई एक नाबालिग बच्ची होती है उसकी शादी करा देते हैं. तो ये जो कानून, ये यूसीसी अगर बनता है तो ये केवल और केवल मैरिज, डिवोर्स, एडॉप्शन और इनहेरिटेंस इसको कवर करेगा. दो लोग, किसी भी दो धर्म के लोग अगर शादी भी करते हैं, बिल्कुल कर रहे, और जाके उस शादी को रजिस्टर करा लें. तो जो कानून है, जो देश का कानून है, उसके अंतर्गत वो शादी आ जाएगी. I was listening to Mr. Hegde as well, and I think he's totally confused when we talk about love jihad. He should go and check the definition of love jihad, which started from Kerala. It was not started by any of the state governed by Bharatiya Janata Party. All right, any two adult people who want to get married, they are coming from different religious background, they are more than welcome to do it. But any person marry other person with the malicious intent, then it is wrong. And definitely action should be taken against that person. So let me come back to UCC. If we talk about the civil laws in our country, Vishnu, we very well know that the Lex Loci report, which is based on 1840. And Lex Loci report in 1840, it recommended the requirement of codification of the laws, and that concerned the crime, evidence and contract. But it did not interfere with the personal laws. And even after the independence, it is carrying on in that way. Why? It is all because of the appeasement. And one more thing, finally, just give me 10 more seconds.
You haven't answered my
because
question.
You have just 10 more seconds because you have come after such a long time. So I just want to give one reply to Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, today the discussion is about the UCC, and you start questioning a Bharatiya Janata Party government or the NDA government that we do not discuss things in parliament. So let me tell you, sir, your political party, which is deep into appeasement, your political party, which advocates for the terrorists, your political party, which give tickets to the heinous criminals. Today you're sitting here and trying to preach and teach us that what constitution is and what nationalism is and what Hinduism is.
Because you have summarized 4 different points in about 3 minutes over there. But Gurcharan ji, you had a point to make. Please go ahead. Yes, sir.
मेरे भाई रतन जी ने और मेरी बहुत सत्कारजोग बहन अनिला जी ने मेरे से सवाल किए हैं. रतन जी ने बोला है कि श्रोमणी गुरुद्वारा प्रबंधक कमेटी को जो उन्होंने एसजीपीसी में वोट नहीं करने के लिए वो लोगों को छोड़ दिया है. मैं ये बताना चाहता हूं कि ये धार्मिक संस्था है, गुरुद्वारा को प्रबंध चलाने के लिए है. राम मंदिर बन रहा है, हमारे लिए सराहनीय है, सत्कारत है, वो पवित्र धाम है. क्या उसको चलाने के लिए जो कमेटी है वो मुस्लिम आएंगे उसमें? क्या सिख आएंगे उसमें? ये बात आप ध्यान रखिए. एक बात ध्यान रखिए कि गुरुद्वारे में सभी धर्मों का सत्कार है. तो माफ करना, मैं जो बात कर रहा हूं आपके दिल को लगेगी कि बहुत से मंदिर इसमें दलित नहीं मैं किसी को ये नहीं,
सिख नहीं गिन रहे. आप खालसा को सिख से मिक्स कर रहे हैं. मैं भी पंजाबी हूँ. मैं भी पंजाबी हूँ. मेरी गल सुनो.
मेरी बात का जवाब दे. मेरी बात का जवाब दे.
दाढ़ी तक सिख वाला सिख है कि नहीं? दाढ़ी तो बिना केश वाला.
मैं कहना
गुरुओं ने क्या सी 10वें गुरु तो पहला क्या सी किसी ने?
Gentlemen, can we speak in Hindi, please, or in English? Because otherwise, completely lost over here. Gurcharan ji, one second. Gurcharan ji, 1 second. Gurcharan ji, 1 second. Ratan ji, make your point. Yes.
My question, my statement is very simple. So, 2 years back, there was no issue. See, Dadi and Kesh is a Khalsa concept, it's not a Sikh concept. Sikhs were there without Kesh and Dadi. They were following Sikhism very strongly. They were part of LGPC voting. Now they have been removed from the LGPC voting. Is this not discrimination? Can I not be a Sikh without Dadi and Kesh? I can be.
Okay, all right, okay. Let's end this particular part of the debate. Let me just go across to Sanjay Hegde. Let me go across to Sanjay Hegde at this stage. Mr. Hegde, I didn't get an answer to the question I was trying to ask earlier on. Legally speaking, are different states in our country entitled to push for a uniform civil code?
Well, different states can legislate on matters in the concurrent list. But the moment you have each state bringing its uniform civil code, where is the uniformity? I mean, conceptually, there can't be a uniform civil code if different states have different legislations. So a marriage may be valid in Uttarakhand, for instance, but may be invalid elsewhere, or vice versa. So therefore, you are right when you say that if there has to be a uniform civil code, then the centre under the concurrent list will have to take over. And when the centre promulgates anything under the concurrent list, the state legislation has yields. Unless and until there is one small thing that if the president assents to the state amendment, then within that state, that amendment goes through.
Satyapal Jain,
a uniform civil code logically speaking, can only come from Parliament.
Satyapal said, why is the
Mr.
BJP in BJP states pursuing a uniform civil code? If indeed everything that you've argued on this program is, let's discuss it and let Parliament decide.
See, in the state legislatures also, when you enact any law, this is also enacted after some panel examines it. Panel submits the report, same procedure as is followed in Parliament is followed in the state legislatures also. I think, Mr. Hegde, today I feel, and I'm concluding, indirectly you are arguing in favor of the debate for the Uniform Civil Code. I agree. If different states enact different laws, there has to be, just a minute, there has to be some central law. States can enact the law. Unless it is in conflict with the central act, the state act will conflict. Therefore, there is a necessity, instead of each state having its own separate law, let's go for a centralized act by taking into consideration the views of all stakeholders, those who are voting also, those who are opposing also. I will read one line from the Law Commission's report, the notice. Accordingly, the 22nd Law Commission of India decided again to solicit views and ideas of the public at large and recognize religious organizations about the Uniform Civil Code. Let's go and give all these opinions to the Law Commission. Let not be apprehensive. This will be done, that will be done, it will be done. Have faith in the system.
All right, have faith. 30 seconds, Mr. Hegde. I need to wrap this up.
No. Does the Law Commission say why it changed its mind? And why before 2024? This tells us that there is something rotten in the state of Denmark. That's it.
All right.
Because earlier governments didn't do it.
Then
So this
India
government
should
is
have
complying.
all
Your own government, your own Law Commission. Your own law.
All right, everybody, I need to wrap this up.
Can I have 2 seconds?
No, ma'am. The moment I give you
BJP
2
government
seconds,
is not
you
more
list 10
for-
different points and I'm out of
I
time.
just want to say to Mr. Hegde, Mr. Hegde,
Anila ji, I'm out of time. Out of time, everybody. But we try to cover as many issues as we can. Anila ji, I promise we'll be visiting this topic and I would love to have you back on this program again. Out of time. Thank you all very much for being with us.